Hello there. What's going on, you guys? So today I'm going to be talking about something that really annoys me in X-Wing 2.0. Also going to be presenting my suggestion for an idea for a possible fix for said thing that drives me nuts. I'm going to give you some background on basically what I'm talking about is this. There was this quick build discussion that started on the X-Wing forums, on FFG forums, and it is basically talking about a couple of errors on the quick build cards. And I get that there's been so many little errors with X-Wing 2.0, and while that does annoy me, a lot of it is stuff I'm willing to let slide because nobody's perfect. Also, I understand that quick builds as a whole were designed, to sometimes break the rules. Because there's been so many errors, it makes me wonder if that's really the case, or if that was kind of like a quick, clever cover up. I'm like, oh yeah, we and totally intended to do that, but that's not it. It's some of the design rules that are impossible to use, right? So the card I'm talking about is Outmaneuver, and this was on some of the A-Wing quick builds. And granted, maybe it's just a thing for folks like me that played a lot of X-Wing 1.0. And, when you acclimate from one game to another game, sometimes you get things confused. So I'm actually curious from a lot of you guys, if you guys have seen this particular problem. I'm curious your thoughts on them as well. Let me know down in the comments below. By the way, I'm giving away a Star Wars Force FX lightsaber right now. That's going to be running all throughout February. Should run to the beginning of March. So if you'd like to enter to win that, all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that, guys. So don't forget about that. But the A-Wing, cannot use Outmaneuver. Now, I think it should be able to use Outmaneuver, but apparently it can't. And that's what brings me to my point. Okay, so Outmaneuver. While you perform a forward arc attack, if you are not in the defender's firing arc, the defender rolls one fewer defense dice. Okay, but basically, if you're zooming in on somebody and from behind or from the side, or if you're not in their arc, they roll one fewer defense die. Simple card. It was in X-Wing 1.0 also. It's been around for a long time. I think it's been around since X-Wing 1.0 Wave 4, so it's been around for years. Principally, this card hasn't changed very much, right? It's something you can't use like shooting sideways out of a turret, though, right? Like, it has to be a front shot. So, it's all right. That makes sense. But the A-Wing, the RZ2 A-Wing in the Resistance, has a turret. Granted, A-Wing's always been shooting straight, right? But they have guns that can flip backwards. Obviously, makes sense that if you're shooting out your butt, you're not going to be able to trigger Outmaneuver. But what about when those guns are pointed forward, right? The problem is it's this technical problem, and that it's, you have the turret arc as opposed to the forward-facing primary arc, and that's the crux of it. It's like I have been confused a lot by this new ruling of the forward arc symbol on these cards, the ruling of, well, every ship that doesn't have only a forward arc apparently gets just. I'm exaggerating a little here, but it feels like they get the short end of the stick on all the cool upgrades. So, so you can see here that the RZ2 A-Wing does not have a fixed front only weapon. I'm going to use the term fixed front. It's a term they use in Star Wars Legion, and that just means a weapon that can only fire out of its forward arc. The A-Wing for the Rebels does have a fixed front, but because the A-Wing for the Resistance has the additional ability to flip its guns backwards, suddenly it's like it loses the ability to fire forward, right? It doesn't actually lose the ability to fire forward. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm using that to kind of drive home my point. My point is, logically and thematically, it makes perfect sense that the A-Wing should be able to equip Outmaneuver. However, because this has that symbol and the word attack, it cannot trigger Fearless, or rather Outmaneuver. Fearless is for another thing. So a similar example, this actually crept up with me, actually one of my X-Wing builds a while back, using Dengar. Dengar apparently can't do it either because he also has a turret arc, and and it's frustrating to me, especially because, the outmaneuver symbol the outmaneuver card has this forward arc symbol. The RZ2A wing has the forward arc symbol, so it's like you can turn your turret to that forward arc symbol or to that rear arc symbol. So now, if you are very, very up to speed on the X-Wings rules, you will know all of this already. And you're going to say, crab, dude, that's just the way it is. I understand. I get that. But a lot of people I talk to, even some people who've been playing, a lot of X-Wing, still get confused about this. And I can't even imagine somebody who's maybe just getting into the game. You're going to look at this A-Wing, you're going to see, well, clearly it has the picture for the symbol on refined gyro stabilizers. You can rotate your turret to your front or your back, your A, your V or your A, after you perform an action. So it clearly intends that you're firing out of this or out of this, right? I mean, am I? So if you know that this is wrong, can you at least understand that this is confusing as heck? Same thing goes with Dengar. All right, Dengar couldn't take it, and he's got it printed right on his card and his pilot ability. Dengar or any of the Jumpmaster pilots, right? But it's especially a thing with Dengar because he's got that symbol printed right there on his card. After you defend, now Dengar, it is written a little differently. After you defend, if the attacker is in your forward arc, you may spend. And what does that symbol even really mean, right? Because I tried to run Fearless on Dengar. While you perform a forward arc primary attack, if the attacker is range 1 and you're in the defender's primary forward arc, you may change one of your results to a hit result. And it was and I was told I couldn't use this, and I was like, what are you talking about? I'm performing as long as my turret is pointed forward. If my turret is pointing sideways, then of course I can't use it. But if my turret is pointed forward, of course I've got a forward arc. I got the forward arc symbol right on Dengar, So of course I have a forward arc. If I didn't have a forward arc, why would I have anything that uses a forward arc? Every ship has a forward arc. But Dengar can point his turret forward, and if he does, shouldn't that allow Fearless to trigger? Apparently it does not, and we'll talk about why. And it was doubly frustrating for me with Dengar because the Punishing One also references the forward arc. Okay? While you perform a primary attack, if the defender's in your forward arc, roll 1 additional attack die. And so the argument, it comes from this FAQ entry, right? Can ships that use a turret or full front or half front, there's a word for it, attacks use effects that require the ship to perform a V attack, i.e. Fearless or outmaneuver? And the official answer is no. Note the differences between the requirements of Fearless. While you perform a primary attack and Punishing One, when you perform a primary attack if the defender is in your... So what is this really telling us, right? It tells us a couple of things. It tells us that this means different things depending on how we use it. And that's why I'm so frustrated, because this is X-Wing 2nd edition. It's still new. Wave 2 just came out. So X-Wing 2nd edition is still brand new, I would even say. I mean, it has been, it has been out for 3 months. We shouldn't be having huge, this is a big confusing thing for me. And I don't like that, because what it's saying here, all right, let me point to the rules reference guide, because I actually argued with one of you guys, one of my viewers, over this for a while. We went back and forth, and this was a while back, but right here, and this is page 4 of the rules reference guide, so if you'd like to follow along, you can definitely do that. It's defining this symbol on page 4 as a front arc symbol. The arc projects in the same direction the ship is facing. The arc. This is your front arc. It is a standard arc. Standard arc, there are 4 standard arcs. 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Your front, left, right, and rear. Okay? Or side arcs. There's 3 types, because your side arcs are, but there's effectively 4 standard arcs: front, left, right, and rear. A turret arc has a separate category. It's wherever your turret's pointed. But note the highlighted portion here. The standard arc that the turret arc indicator is pointing towards is a turret in addition to still being a standard arc. That right there makes it clear as mud that if my turret is pointing forward, it is both a turret arc and a front arc. That V symbol, that symbol right there. So if my turret is pointed forward, it is that as well as the turret symbol. As well. Okay? I mean, it says it in the rules reference guide, which to me conflicts with this FAQ. Although the FAQ has to take priority, and I accept that, I acknowledge that. I have a problem with it though. So maybe accept isn't the best word, but this is my gripe. All right, this is what like as Peter Griffin would say, what grinds my gears right here. Because let's look at it in this case. While you perform a primary attack, if the defender is in your frontal arc, roll 1 additional attack die. There is a situation in the punishing one where if your turret is pointed sideways and somebody is like in between the line, so like half of the ship is in your side arc and half of the ship is in your front arc, you could do that side turret shot and still get the additional die. Okay, because if part of them is still in your front arc. So in this case, that V symbol represents the space in front of your ship, not the weapon on your ship. Okay? That's what this one means. Okay? Fair enough. Dengar, after you defend if the attacker is in your front ship. Here it also means the space in front of your ship. It may, but this one it's applying to defending, but still it's talking about space. Okay? But then here it's talking about, well, 2 things. Well, you perform a front arc primary attack. According to the FAQ, Fearless is talking about 2 completely different things. It has nothing to do with the space. Okay? This is saying 2 things. First off, you have to be attacking with a weapon that is in your front arc. So the V, so that forward arc. And it has to be a primary attack. So in other words, you can't be using a secondary missile. You can't launch missiles, for example, right? That's how I read this. That makes sense. I can't launch missiles. Got it. But so that's 2 different meanings for me. For one, they're talking about your primary weapon, the weapon that's pointed this way, right? So it means either the space or the weapon that's pointed this way. But the FAQ is basically establishing a 3rd meaning to that symbol, because the FAQ is saying it has to be a primary attack weapon that can only point this way. And that's what's really frustrating. That's this whole thing boiled down, because that also applies to the situation with the A-Wing and why it can't take out maneuver. And this one doesn't even say primary attack. This one just says when you perform a forward arc attack. And again, according to the rules on page 4, if their turret on this A-Wing is pointed forward, it is both a turret and a forward arc. And it's both. So it should trigger outmaneuver, but it does not, according to the FAQ, because the FAQ clearly says that ships that only use turret or full half arc effects can't trigger Fearless and outmaneuver. It doesn't make sense. I can maybe see that full arc effect, but it specifically says that if a turret's pointed in a direction, it counts as a turret arc and also the other one, in addition to. So it's like the plus, adding things together, not dividing them. Have I made my point yet? So how would I fix it? What's my solution to this dilemma? Because the problem is, in my eyes, this symbol has 3 different meanings. It means A, a fixed front only weapon that is attached to a ship, i.e., a big old cannon that's broken and can't swivel, that points forward only, right? That's attached to a ship. So it's applying to a specific weapon. The second thing is any shot that happens to come out of your front arc is a second use that is distinct from the first use, because the first use is the only one that's apparently allowed to trigger things like outmaneuver and fearless. If you just happen to have any old weapon that's shooting out of your front arc, then that's different, because that's not a fixed front primary weapon. It's just a happens to be front primary weapon. So if it can move, it's not a fixed front primary weapon. And then the third different thing is the empty space or just the space in general in front of a ship's front arc. So now, the space in front of your ship is one thing. But my big problem is the difference between a weapon that happens to be shooting forward and a weapon that it must shoot forward, and that's a fixed front primary. So my suggestion is this right here, a new symbol. Right now, it's probably not going to happen. But my suggestion is a whole new symbol that means fixed front primary, because and it would be valid for a game like this, because X-Wing in theory could have a fixed front primary. You could even have this pointed left, right, or backwards. If you wanted to come up with a ship that only shoots out of its rear and has no other shots, you could have this turned upside down or something like that. But that's unrealistic, I think, for X-Wing. What's more likely is you're going to have... No, in theory, the Ghost could have had this pointed upside down as a second weapon, right? If they wanted to specify a certain shot, But that's already been dealt with, so we don't need to go down that road. But this could apply to those weapons that have locked in front, like the X-Wing, right? Locked in front guns that only shoot forward. You'd still have the arc. You'd still have that forward arc. And it still represents, any other shot, like your proton torpedoes or the space in front of you. So this just means any shot that comes out of the front. This means it can only shoot out of the front. It's your fixed front weapon. I think fixed front is just a very, very simple mechanic. I think it works well in Legion. There's no reason why you can't apply it to X-Wing, except for the fact that you'd have to reprint all your cards, right? Like, you wanted everything on the app, and now that's not good enough, because one of the biggest broken mechanics is one of the things you printed directly into X-Wing. So yeah, this is a real big gripe of mine, because look at it now. Look how Fearless would look with this, where you perform a primary attack. If the attack range, you don't even need the word primary attack in theory. But if you want to future-proof it, that could just be a symbol that means fixed front. And you could, in theory, have cannons that say fixed front. You could have, missiles that say fixed front if you wanted them to have that. You could do a lot of different things with it. But if you have that symbol, that would easily clarify which cards you explicitly don't want turrets to have access to, even if they're pointing forward. That's my suggestion. Let me know what you think, guys. Did you notice the same issues with like outmaneuver and the A-Wing? Did you think that was like? Do you think the A-Wing should, in theory, be able to take that? I understand that the rules say it cannot, but I'm talking about like thematically, or from maybe even a common sense standpoint. Or is this just me being kind of set in the thinking of X-Wing 1.0 and maybe other games and other game systems? I mean, I've been playing a lot of different games lately, and sometimes you get certain common rule schemes, intertwined with another game. So it could just be a thing of like, I'm oversaturated with games and rules are bleeding together. Am I just getting old and confused, right? Is that what it is? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, guys. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell for alerts, hop on Crabbok.com. Got the details for that lightsaber giveaway over there. You can hop in my Patreon. We're going to have a whole discussion about this in there. Of course, take it to... There's also a... did I say Patreon? I said Discord. I meant Discord. Big thanks to my patrons on Patreon, by the way. You guys are amazing. So I want to thank you for that. You can hop on Patreon too if you want to, if you want to support me that way. Join the club. It gets a lot of behind the scenes pictures, things I'm working on, early access, battle reports, things like that. Everything all my videos do eventually come to YouTube, but patrons will get early access to some videos as well. And also you get access to a private channel in my Discord. You can make requests for videos and things like that. All kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.